elegant weapon for the more civilized age.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to an Elegant Weapon episode 388. My name is J.M. Clark, J the Jedi Ross Jedi J, and as always, it is so wonderful to have all you beautiful babies here in the High Walker studio, hanging out, having good times. I hope everybody's taking care of yourselves out there. Quarantine isn't getting to you too much, I hope. We've had some good news here in Ontario, Canada. It sounds like things might start to open up very soon. So we're very, very excited. Sitting in with me, as usual lately, of course, is the Padawan, my son Declan, hanging out, doing his thing, drawing it up. Tonight's a very, very exciting night to have Declan sitting in with us, basically, because our guest tonight is hailing. Oh, we gotta pause that. Sorry, there's sound that comes through that shouldn't there. Just want to be able to read your comments, kids. So I was bringing up my Facebook page. That audio bleeds over. But yeah, our guest tonight, very excitingly, is all the way from Japan, which is very, very cool. And I believe very, very early in the morning, if I'm not mistaken. Ladies and gentlemen, writer, artist, creator, Miss Bitsy Tandem. Welcome to the show, Bitsy.
Hi, thanks for having me on. I'm so excited to be here.
I'm excited. I'm excited to have you here. We were put in touch together by our mutual friend, Mr. Dirk Manning. And whenever Dirk comes at me with something interesting, I usually jump at it. And you seem like lots of fun. We're just sharing things up here. Okay. So yeah, here we go. So you are Bitsy. You are in Japan. We have established that so far. Why are you in Japan?
Well, when I was really little, I wanted to move here because that's where the ninjas lived, and I was going to be a ninja. And then I got a little older, and I decided I would be a samurai instead, because ninjas aren't really real. They're just common folk.
Right on.
And then I found anime. So it's like my whole life has been like, I got to get to Japan. I got to get to Japan. And so we were able to get on the Japanese English teaching exchange 2 years ago.
So you literally did just go because of your love of anime. That was the driving force. Oh no, are we frozen up here? What's happening? Oh, I hope we haven't frozen, that we're all the way in Japan. Let's hope that this comes back for a sec, kids.
Oof.
It happens, man.
Big oofy.
It's the internet.
It's been a big oofy right now.
It's the way that it goes sometimes. I think we lost
Let's see if my crafty dinner is hot.
whole other one. Are we still are we back?
Are we good? Are we back on?
Are we good? Sorry, that'll happen occasionally. Internet cut out on that there, kids. Sorry. You know what's cool though about Zoom? One thing I find is when the internet does cut out, it keeps everything going. So all you got to do is kind of click back on quick. So we're okay. We're there. You were just yeah. So it really was the driving basis for you to get over there was your love of anime, right?
Yeah. I love anime. I love the culture. I love the people. We came and visited for our belated what's it called, honeymoon. And we just fell in love with it, and we're like, this is our spot. This is our place. And my husband was able.
Yeah, I was able to go on. Sorry.
Yeah, my husband was able to get on the JET program. It's kind of competitive, but it's a Japanese English teaching exchange. So we applied a few years, and we got in this latest time, and we've been here 2 years.
It's amazing. It's a ballsy move, man. I mean, that's some serious culture shock. Where are you from originally?
Who knows?
Okay.
I was born in Montana. I grew up in Washington and Arizona, and lived in Michigan and Oregon.
So you're used to jumping around to a certain extent. So it wasn't that much of a crazy adventure, even though it was Japan, right? So
you'd think you'd get used to it. My mom's a bit of a vagabond, so we're always moving, but it was never easy. It's always hard every time.
Right, right. Are you feeling
But
pretty settled out there after 2 years?
finally, yes, we finally got the house or apartment, I should say. This is pretty much it. We've got a room. We've
Okay.
got it settled. Finally got it like arranged in a way that feels like home. We've got our Christmas lights up that family sent us, so starting to settle in after a good year and a half, 2 years.
Well, that's good. At least it finally starts to feel like home, right? So, but the anime and the love of manga, that begins, I guess, then before Japan. So how does that come into your life?
So I kind of stumbled upon it. Like I didn't really know any of this until I was up late one night and I saw an anime on and I was like, what is this? Like I have to figure out what this is. I really like it. And I began my quest and it took me until we had a game crazy in our town, which was kind of like a GameStop, but way cooler. And I saw this little game that was about one of the anime I had saw at night, and I was like, what is this? So I took it up to the clerk, and I'm like, what is this? I need to know. I need to know. And from there, it was like, I just dove in deep, like everything,
Do
consume it
you
all.
do you remember what that first anime was?
Oh, yeah, definitely. It was Bleach, and I am like 5 books away from having the complete Bleach manga set. I just need those last few books.
It's hard to find some of them. Have you read any Bleach?
I can show you a manga right now.
Oh, so you have a Bleach here?
Yeah.
Yeah. His list of books for Christmas and his birthday this year. Of course, the volumes that he needed were the exact ones that no stores had, right? They had every other volume except like the 5 that he was looking for, and it was a really difficult
I
search.
kind of just messaged you just some animes I wanted manga, then you said more specific, so I just put random numbers down.
Oh, that's it. Would have been nice had I known if those were just random numbers because I was going by the numbers. That's great. Yeah. Yeah, it's he grew up a horror kid, which was weird because he was kind of young for it, but he just took right to like 80s horror, like Freddy and Jason and all that stuff. And then I'd say maybe a year or so ago, along came Death Note. And
Yes.
he watched Death Note and it changed his entire life. Everything became about Death Note and anime. This kid is now singing songs in Japanese. And I'm just like, oh my Lord.
Fantastic.
So it was like that for you too? It just kind of consumed you?
Yeah, pretty much. It was a lot harder to consume anime and manga when I was a kid, so I'd have to go to like the library and check out a book here or there when they had one. But yeah, like I'd get off school, I'd go to the library, see if I could find some manga, and then I'd head home. And between that and World of Warcraft, I was pretty full.
Oh, so that's where
My
the
schedule was
gaming
booked.
aspect started with World of Warcraft?
Gaming aspect was before anime. I've been gaming my whole life. We had a Sega Genesis when I was growing up, so I was really big into like Sonic, and there were some street fighting games and some really great stuff. And then eventually my aunt got a computer, and I would go over to her house as much as I could. She lived up the street, so I'd like walk there every day. I'm like, I gotta play the computer. It's amazing.
Nice. So are you a PC gamer now, or do you have a console or?
Definitely PC gaming is my preferred, but I had to leave my rig at home. I built my own PC a few years ago, and my grandpa helped. It was pretty awesome. And yeah, I had to leave it in America because it's like half a ton. It's
Sure,
heavy.
yeah, that's an expensive ship for sure. That's so cool that your
Yeah.
grandpa, that's something you do with your grandpa. It's not often with your grandpa that you can build a computer, it's usually other type things, but he's always been an Xbox freak. But then he started flirting with the idea of maybe PC might be fun. Are you still thinking that might be something you want to get more into, or are you good with your console?
Maybe like when the Xbox Series X dies out.
Yeah, maybe that'll be the next step to go to the PC level.
Yeah, but like it's first you have to get the PC, then the monitors, and then all that. And that's
Well, you got to build it piece by piece, right? So is it all type of gaming though? It seems because it seems you're into role playing and tabletop and video games and the whole thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I have a love for pretty much all games. Anything that gets you out of Earth and somewhere else is pretty much my jam. But
Awesome.
alongside playing Morrowind and Oblivion growing up, we had a neighbor who was teaching us how to play. Do you know, shoot, what's it called? Mech Warrior? Do you know Mech Warrior? It
I
was
do
like,
not. Do you know Mech Warrior?
Nope.
Nope.
it's old.
Oh
It's
yeah, he
really
would know
old.
it. No, no.
So it was kind of like Warhammer before Warhammer was a thing, except less lore and more just robots.
That's always good. I'm always down for more robots. No, I flirted with it a little bit when I was young, a little bit of D&D with
Yeah.
with the friends, but I never got too far into that. But I almost like, in a way, I was almost like LARPing when I was a kid without knowing, because we spent a lot of time up north here in Canada, up at our cottage, me and my cousins growing up. So it was always dressing up like Robin Hood or, you know, wizards and stuff, and just going
Oh
and
yeah.
making our own staffs and sticks and swords and running through the woods and just
Mhm.
role playing live out there. You know, it was always super fun.
Definitely.
So
That's awesome.
did the art come before the love of manga, or did that inspire you to start learning to draw and create and write? How did that go about?
So the art came after, definitely. Like I always loved art, but it was not something I did. Like my mom would buy me like coloring books and drawing stuff, and I hated it. I was like, I can't stay in the lines, Mom. It's ugly. I don't like it. But I really loved the art style in Bleach specifically. Bleach was a big art inspiration for me. I was like, these people are awesome looking. I love because it's anime, but it's a little more realistic, so it's a little cooler. And I really loved how it was like really cool, but still very stylized. And so that was like, I want to do that. I wonder if I could do that. So I started taking art classes in high school, and I was awful at it still, but my teacher was really, really nice about helping me. She wasn't like, you have to do the classic. She was very good about trying to encourage all forms of art, even though she didn't really have a good basis for helping someone with anime and manga styles.
Still, she could help you
But
learn how
it
to
was pretty,
learn
it
how
was
to
pretty nice
do
of
it,
her.
right? So, yeah, we had a teacher. I remember a teacher in grade 6 who just
Yeah,
hated that we all wanted to draw comics. That's all we wanted to draw was comics, because it was grade 6. It was in 1989, so Batman was coming out, and that's all we wanted to draw. Anybody, like, she couldn't get us to focus on anything else, and it would just piss her off that we copied everything. But you know, that's kind of how you learn, is by using reference. You know.
Yeah.
So
I
you
mean, I
just
used to get my game, what are they called? I used to get these game magazines mailed to me. I forget what they're called, but
like
I would get
Wizard
them every
magazine
month.
stuff, like the
Kind
Nintendo
of. It was,
magazines, kind of, you mean, like those?
yeah,
Yeah.
kind of like the Nintendo magazines. It's still going. I just can't remember the name of it, but I would get,
Okay.
it was like a nice hefty magazine every month, and I would take that to school and I would try and draw the characters from there. And she didn't really have a good basis for anatomy, so I didn't get a lot of like hands-on help with it, but everyone was very encouraging, so that was nice. And then of course I sat next to the talented kid who could just draw anything, and he'd just show me up every time. I'm like, he was really nice though. So
That's good. It drives you, right? Yeah, it's something
like,
to
one day.
something to
Still
push
not
you
as good
along.
as him.
Hey, you'll get there. Just keep on going, I'm sure. So you're gonna have to explain to me, because it seems like you guys have done a lot, because you work with your husband, yes?
Yes.
And
Yeah.
you've kind of created not just like a comic, even though you do have this Kickstarter going on right now, but it seems like you guys together have done a whole bunch of stuff in the past little while. So how about you start at the beginning and explain to me all the work that you guys have produced?
Okay, so it all started when I always wanted to write novels, but I'm dyslexic, so I was having a hard time with that. And my cousin actually said, "Why not draw them? You know, you love manga so much. Why not draw your stories?" And so I started doing that, and it was finally like it wasn't very good, but I was able to express myself better. So it's like this is closer to what I was trying to say than the words were expressing. So just I just really took to it, and I stopped doing everything else. And as I started building that, I created an original story that I'm going to do later. And in that story, they lived on the planet Eoterra. And my husband helped me build this world, Eoterra. And we started like putting just the foundation together of something that we thought would happen later. And then when I started Maiden in Disguise first draft, halfway through, I was like, why not put this on Eoterra too? You know, like
Sure.
we've already started building this planet. Let's just move it over.
Sure.
And that threw everyone for a loop. I was posting my first drafts online for people to see them, and everyone was very confused, like, what's going on? Why is there a different planet? And so we decided to create a visitor's guide, and we kickstarted that in 2018. So we put the visitor's guide together, kickstarted it, it did really well. And then last year we were like, okay, we've got a good first draft of Maiden in Disguise going, but nothing's really taking, nothing was really solid. So we decided to redo it and start the final draft. And that's what we're kickstarting now, is the final draft of Maiden in Disguise set up on our planet Eoterra, which will have a website come out soon. That's eoterra.com, which will have all the cool information from the visitor's guide in like fun to consume manners and stuff.
So before the visitor's guide, all those stories you were writing, so the world just existed in prose form at that time? Like, how did you put that out? Like, did you put that out like on the web or?
Yeah, kind of. I had do you know Tapastic? It's kind of like webtoons, but not as good.
Right.
So I was posting there, like just my pages that I was making, and they're amateur, and they're my, that was the first comic I ever put out into the world. Like,
but you were drawing and writing a comic at that time. It wasn't just that you were writing the story. You were actually putting the characters out there and stuff too.
Yeah, I just had I had this story, this comic I was making, and this planet for a different story that I was going to do later. And then I decided to put the current one on the same planet, so everything I do will take place on Eoterra. Most of the things. If it's not on Eoterra, it's in the Eoterran multiverse.
Right, that's awesome. Yeah. It's all about having your own universe now, because you can do, it's so infinite. You can do so much. So that's cool. So it goes from basically webcomic to visitor's guide, which I love that kind of stuff. My shelf over here is full of like essential guide to Star Wars characters and essential this and essential that. So that's really cool that you did that pretty early though. After just doing the webcomic, before you're going to do the rest and Maiden in Disguise, you're kind of like, you put this out. Do you kind of, is that kind of like a base then? Is that kind of like a Bible that you can build around, sort of thing?
Yeah, it doesn't quite cover everything, but I really loved the idea of the Silmarillion from Tolkien. So it's got a lot of points on history and stuff. And we actually got physical copies from the Kickstarter. It's
awesome.
Nice and big. It's
thick. It's
only 100 pages. After we were done, we were like, ooh, we could have fit a lot more in here. Like, could have added some more stuff.
Volume
but
2,
we'll do
right?
another version. Yeah, we'll do
there
a
you
volume
go.
2.
You
We'll
gotta
get a
have
little more in depth
volumes.
on stuff.
Because then you can, like, retroact anything that you need to, or make stuff fit, and that's the whole point of world building. That's super cool.
Right.
So Maiden in Disguise is your current Kickstarter, which takes place in the Eoterra universe, aside from the stories you've done before. So tell us a bit about the universe itself. What was the original webcomic about? What are the characters about? What kind of place is this?
So Eoterra is kind of a more advanced, more peaceful planet in the sense that, like, they developed quicker. So it's 1813 AD, meaning after documentation, because they didn't think to write stuff down until they found an alien artifact with writing on it. They don't know it was from aliens. They're just like, that's a good idea. Let's make a language system. So I love the idea of, like, young planets. Like, it's budding, it's developing quickly. Yeah, there's wars and conflict, but not as many and not as intense as it is here on Earth. Earth is hard.
Right.
But
That's a
so
great way to go, though, because it's the opposite. Most stories and world building are, you know, based on like thousands of years of history, or like you're saying, the Silmarillion, like so far back. But you're looking at it from its birth, from its genesis. That's cool.
yeah, yeah, I like that fresh kind of new, anything could happen. Like it's got a whole future ahead of it. And I love like sci-fi as well. So I like being able to do both. Like you have your little bit of fantasy, you've got your history, but you've got your sci-fi that you're going into. And there'll be stories in the past and the future of Eoterra. So I've got a lot coming. But Maiden in Disguise specifically is happening in 1813, when they're kind of in a similar technological age as we are right now. And the main character is struggling with a lot of things I see in the world right now, is because, you know, being so connected, being so online, we, you know, have a hard time figuring out who we are, or, you know, don't know how to connect with other people in the real world. So it's covering a lot of those topics that I think are becoming a lot more relevant. And it's stuff that I had to deal with a lot growing up too, being a really tomboy gamer girl with a shaved head, and everyone mistaking me for a boy and not knowing if, you know, who I was and why I wasn't a boy and like what made me different than everyone else. And just a lot of those like internal struggles and mental health, and a lot of character growth that I want to show through Eliana, the main character, as well as mixing in a lot of video games and the wonder and the just the escape that a game can provide you, and how much more comfortable that can be for someone. Because in game, she's very confident, she's very comfortable. She plays a 7-foot tall half dragon man, and he is very, very strong. She won the last championship. Everybody knows who she is. She does live streams, but she does them in character. So no one knows who Ellie is. They only know who Elrond is. And Elrond Agrenar is like awesome.
Right.
So yeah, so she's struggling with like, I'm only who I am in game and I'm not who I am in the real world. So it plays on that back and forth, and it follows the in-game and the out-of-game as two different storylines, because the in-game world is supposed to feel like its own place, like its own world, its own universe.
Okay. Right. Yeah. Yeah. That's great. I see. I underestimated anime in a way, and manga storytelling, because my only real experience with it was like, because back in the day, I mean, I come from a time before anime was the term. Like it was Japanime when I was young, and it hadn't even progressed to that point where it had become what it is today. And those were the times that we just had like Akira and not a lot else, right? So just rip her open there. And you know, and that was a lot different storytelling than what it's kind of turned into today, especially with like the manga books and the volumes and the novels. So then it got to a point where it was just something at Comic-Cons that I didn't understand. I was like, I don't know any of these characters. They're all so insane looking. They all have the craziest stuff going on. They just congregate all over the place. And it was just like, ah. And I was just all like anti-manga and stuff. And then this kid gets all obsessed with anime. And, you know, of course, I've had to learn a lot over the past year and whatever. And I'm starting to understand the obsession with it, in that even though the comic book and geek and nerd community, whatever you want to call it, there's a lot of introverts and a lot of shy folk who have trouble expressing themselves, even though that is, you know, a large percentage of the ilk of that community, the manga kids and the anime kids in particular seem to really benefit from it. It seems deeper. It seems like these are the kids who really struggle to express themselves. These are the ones who really have trouble communicating with this world and the way that it exists. And I think that's why I'm starting to understand why it's so fantastical and why, you know, these characters are much deeper than I ever expected. And the way that the kids identify with some of the most random, you know, characters. They're not just all about, you know, Naruto, not all just about the hero. It's all these side characters. Each of them are so popular. Am I in the right vein where I'm starting to understand it that way? Is it like that for you?
Yeah, I definitely see a lot of that, and I definitely lived a lot of that, you know, being, I wouldn't say I was outcast per se. I was just like, I just, you know, you see the blonde-eyed, blue hair, pretty girls all wearing the same thing, walking together, talking about popular stuff, and you're like, why am I different? What's wrong with me? You know? And so that was a lot of where I came from, and finding like the anime and manga community. I'm not very social in the community, but just kind of seeing something that I can like read through and love and enjoy, and seeing other people enjoy the same stuff is kind of freeing. It's like, you know, I'm not alone anymore. There's a whole bunch of people who love this stuff that normal people might consider weird. But on the other hand, what is normal? You know, we're all weird. We've all got our own weirdness. And I share this one with a bunch of people, you know, this
Right.
love for anime and manga.
Right. So go a little bit into the story of Maiden in Disguise. What's it all about?
So it follows the question, who am I, kind of, and along with the like ups and downs of finding herself, like a coming of age story, there's a lot of shenanigans. And because I love how an anime can, you know, follow tough topics, but also have a lot of comedy written into it.
Very light,
So
yeah.
yeah, so it keeps you, the reader, from going and hitting lows of like depression. It kind of keeps that like balance of, you know, deep story, but also, you know, comedy and relaxing and fun to read. And that's a main goal of Maiden in Disguise. So as we follow her, you know, coming of age, who am I, figuring out like, if I'm not Elrond Agrenar, who am I in the real world of Eoterra? Uh, we've also got like, she's hilarious. She's like a total dweeb and doesn't know how to interact with people, and it's funny. Like, you know, she's just a great character to draw to sometimes, because she'll make like the ugliest faces. And
Right.
it's just like, you know, all of these new friends who like, you're like, you're Elrond Agrenar, we want to be friends with you, and she's like, no. But as they slowly build those friendships, and she begins to like really accept these people, like there's a lot of like, just, oh, I don't know how to say it with words.
Like evolution, like there's just a
Yeah.
lot of growth there and coming to terms with who she is, and that's the kind of vibe I'm getting, you
think
know.
think like Avatar: The Last Airbender. You've got Zuko,
Right.
and
Oh, we got cut again.
Cut on the best part, talking about Avatar.
It's all right. We'll fix this instantly. We'll fix this. Oh, there you go. See, I fixed it right away. We're good.
nice.
Internet connection is unstable. He just said right at the best part as that cut off, because you were about to talk about Zuko.
Yes,
Thanks.
Zuko is the best.
And it's fun, but we were trying to find something to watch together, and you know, I there's a lot of the anime that I just can't get into. And the whole world though had been talking about Last Airbender. It wasn't just like anime fans. People were just like had this obsession with it, and I was like, okay, I got to find out what's going on, because I saw the movie and I thought it was like a cool idea or whatever, but I knew the fans weren't a fan of it, and I had to find out what was up. So I started watching it with him, and within like 4 or 5 episodes, I was like, I think I get it, because this is super, super awesome and cool.
It's really good.
So yeah, we watched that together, you know, a couple months ago. So I am up to it. So Zuko, I see what you're saying there. Zuko went through this crazy transformation from your main villain to basically one of your heroes, right? Yeah. So it's cool to have kind of seen that coming.
Avatar is technically not an anime.
Oh,
that's true. Avatar is technically a cartoon.
So so it literally has to be made in Japan to qualify as an anime.
To anime fans, yes. To people in Japan, no.
Oh,
In
really?
Japan, anime is just animation. So anything that's animated is an anime to people in Japan. But anime fans, especially in America, have a distinction because of the art style and who created it. But yeah, here, like in America, someone would call my comic a comic because I'm not Japanese, but here in Japan, they call it a manga because comics are manga and it's all the same thing to them because it's
So
just
there's
storytelling.
no differentiating between anything there, even if the art styles are that drastically different. It's all just the same. It's all just considered art, even if it's obviously that manga style that we would consider anime.
By the general population, yes. By the hardcore fans, I'm sure there are distinctions, but I haven't met a lot of hardcore fans. I do live out in like the suburb, not the suburbs, like way out. I live out in the sticks. I live in the
Okay.
middle of nowhere.
Okay.
But from the normal people, like the everyday people, there isn't a distinction. I haven't met hardcore fans yet. I'm sure they would distinguish just because that's how people tend to do stuff, is like when you're really into something, it's like, this is manga, this is manhwa from China, this is like the Korean manga. There are ways you can differentiate, but the general population is pretty all inclusive. And it's kind of cool just being accepted. You know,
Yeah.
they're like, oh, you draw manga, you're a mangaka. Perfect. We love it. Is it in Japanese? And I'm like, soon.
So if they were to pick up a Daredevil comic off the shelf, it would be considered just a manga too.
Most people would just be like, oh, it's manga, it's American. Maybe like they like American words, so they might say like American comic book, but
Okay.
to them it's like all, it's still the same type of like medium. It's just
Right.
like, if they know English and if they enjoy speaking English, they might call it a comic book. But
That's cool,
like I said, the
man.
majority of people are just kind of like
Because there's
accepting.
such a distinction here, right down the line, not just with the books, but like the cosplayers. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like, there's not even a lot of mix. Like the anime cosplayers are a subset unto themselves, right?
Mhm.
Compared to all like the superhero like cosplayers, there's not a lot of crossover that goes on there. So, you
Right.
know, there's such a distinction here. It's really cool to hear that over there it's just one big party. You know, so
I think it's because the culture is pretty homogenous. Like they're so used to a homogenous culture. It's just like they don't, you know, put a lot of things in different boxes. It's just like, this is it, this is that, you know, and that's just how it is.
right.
So, but yeah, I definitely find it very cool. I really like it. You
So
know,
why are the books backwards? Is
that's just
it
the,
that or all
yeah.
there like that? Like, there's got to be. Do you have any
So
idea?
it's just because that's how they, yeah, it's the writing style. It's exactly, so their original way of writing goes down, and which way is it? That way? The backwards way.
Yeah,
Goes
right.
down and backwards. So you're reading it this way, this way, this way,
So
and down and backwards.
it's not just manga then. If you were to pick up just like a Japanese novel, you'd be reading it backwards as well.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
I see. For I don't know why, but I thought it was just manga books for some reason. I thought there was some specific reason that just manga comics were done in that way, you know? So, but that's
No.
cool, man. I mean, it's a really it's a feather in anime's cap and manga's cap and the whole thing's cap,
Mhm.
just to see what it's done for you. Like, not, it didn't just inspire you to pick up and move to a whole other culture and experience this whole other world, but to be creative and to learn and to have a passion and a drive. You know, that's you know, that's a fantastic thing. It's an inspirational story. So the Kickstarter, tell me about the Kickstarter itself. What kind of rewards you got going on? What kind of tiers are happening? What's the deal?
Definitely. So the whole point is to get it published in Japanese. So we got to, you know, translate it. There's a company in Tokyo I've been talking to, and they're going to translate the whole book and we'll publish it. So I have to do 2 publication costs, one for English, one for Japanese, plus the translation cost. So that's what the goal is for. And then you can get your own, cool collector's items along the way. We've got I really like making merchandise, so like physical things. Like I know a lot of people are into like tons and tons of posters or like different covers for books, but I really just like making like I made a blanket and it's got like this cool glitch aesthetic. So it can get it's like this softest, fuzziest, awesome blanket, and it's got this cool like red and blue and black and glitch stuff going on. And then I made a hoodie that's kind of got the same black and red and glitch thing happening. And you can get those with some of the premium tiers, or you can just add it on. So they are available. Like you can get just the book and then add on the hoodie if you want, or you can get like everything for the cozy gamer set and be super snuggly when you're playing your games.
Yeah, no,
yeah,
that's awesome. Yeah, you always wrap yourself up in a blanket when you're playing video games, eh?
Well, I used to.
You used to? What do you mean? You were 2 days ago. I went in there and you were all wrapped up, cozy,
Well, 'cause I was
playing
cold.
Call of Duty or some kind of nonsense like that.
But your hands get cold.
Right?
You got to keep them in the blanket.
That's awesome. So the Kickstarter is doing pretty well, I believe, aren't you? Is it about half funded at this point, or where are you at?
It is half funded. Yep. So 50%. We've been stuck at that for the past couple days. So it's been like I'm sitting here like, come on, 50%.
Right. Those lulls will come. It's hard with the Kickstarters. It's a lot of pressure. I mean,
Yeah.
At this point over the years, I have interviewed so many people doing Kickstarters. It's always awesome to see the nerves that it frays during the process. It's such a roller coaster of emotion. It's so exciting when you launch it, and then you make a bunch, and then there's these plateaus, and then you're like, oh my God, and then the plateaus pass, and then you feel great. It's an adventurous ride. You did one before though, right? You did one before for the visitors book, right?
Yes. I am so glad I did that before, because shoot, I needed that experience. We barely broke even. Like I barely was able to send out everyone's rewards without dipping into our own cash. And I didn't charge anyone shipping that time.
Ooh.
And yeah, well, they weren't, I was doing all digital because I didn't think we'd be able to get to physical copies, but we went 200%. So I was able to do the physical copies. And yeah, I was just like, everybody gets one. Yay.
Right. Yeah, it's all exciting when everybody starts hitting their reward tiers and stuff, but then you realize, oh my God, I've got to fulfill these. Now I've got to make keychains or mugs or do a bunch of extra stories or pictures. Or I feel bad for the people who do that when they offer more like pros or something on the side. And it's like, oh.
I see some people who are like, we'll hit this stretch goal and everybody gets 2. And I'm like, oh, no, don't do that. That's a bad idea. That's a bad idea.
So I know your husband helped you along with the world building and such, but is that the extent of his involvement, or does he work on the work at all with you? Or this is straight up you? You're writing it, you're drawing it, you're doing the whole damn thing?
So he is my editor. Like I said before, words are not my strong point. I have like these little, I don't know, I'm dyslexic, so it's just like, it's upside down, it's backwards, it's confusing. So I'll just like blah onto a page and like make it a bunch of nonsense, and then he'll go and clean it up and make it something other people could understand. So I do more of like, my script writing style is more like screenplay, and then he'll kind of help with my dialogue and my setting and help me like make the panels like make sense for what I wrote. Because I don't think in panels. I can't be like, panel 1 is this, panel 2 is that. I don't know.
It's hard to be that descriptive. Like a different range. Yeah, for each box and stuff. Yeah, it's a hard process. I've been trying a little bit myself, and it's like to keep things straight. It's a lot. But it's great that you have him, and you guys obviously have a pretty good working relationship, because an editor is the most invaluable part of the process. A lot of people don't realize, and this is a very good example for anybody out there who might hear this and realize, even as a solo artist, if you're the artist and writer, you still need an editor. They're not just there to keep the team together, but they're there to keep you straight, right? I'm sure he's
there have been many times where I have messed up my own continuity, and he's like, "Why didn't you read it in the visitor's guide? You need to read your own visitor's guide." And I'm like, "I thought I knew this stuff."
Right. Well,
He's
no,
like,
that's the cool thing though. At least you do have it to go back to, right? I mean, when you start
right.
building these giant worlds to have to be able to go back and reference stuff, I mean, you can only fit so much in your brain, right? That's awesome. When you've
Right.
created something big enough that you have to write books about the thing you created, and then check them yourself because you don't remember. That's
Right.
super fun. That's super awesome.
Yeah, and he's really great to bounce ideas off of. Like, we've been trying to figure out how much an EOTaran credit should be worth. So we've been discussing that, and like, we'll go on nature hikes and I'll be like, how about a half credit gets you a 5-pack of gum? You know, just like discussing like the economics of a world that doesn't exist.
Well, I'm sure one thing leads to another. Like you're like, oh my God, we need a currency, which leads to, oh my God, we need like a banking system, or oh my God, we need a language, or oh my God, we need a dialect for this. Like, yeah, I'm sure it just snowballs, right? When you're trying to build existence.
If I could hire a linguistic expert to make an EOTaran common language, I would do so fast.
Right.
Oh,
I'm
that'd
sure
be
there's some
amazing.
linguistics student out there or something who'd love that challenge. I bet you these days linguistic students, because they've grown up with things like Klingon or whatever, probably all of them have their own secret language, just they've written in a file somewhere. They're ready to bust out for like a story or a movie or something cool like that. You know what I mean? Okay, we have to take it a little bit off topic before we wrap up here. My day profession is that of an arborist. So I'm a tree expert by day, podcasting nerd by night, hiker on the weekends. And I gotta ask, because you just mentioned it as well, coming from North America and heading out there, how is it? Is it as magical as we see? Are the trees just amazing? What time of year? You're kind of in spring right now, or?
Technically, yes. We celebrated this coming of spring holiday where you throw beans at the Oni a couple weeks ago. But the flowers haven't started really blooming yet. You'll see like 1 or 2 trees are starting to bloom. But yeah, so it's kind of weird. Like, I thought I would step into like a Studio Ghibli film and everything would be like glittery and lush and green. And I get here and I'm like, it kind of just looks like everywhere else I've been. I mean, some of the trees are different. Some of them are pretty neat, but most of it is just your typical, like, you know, you've got your sagebrush and your pine trees and your
And a
grapeseed
lake's a
flowers
lake
everywhere.
or whatever, right?
Yeah. And I'm like, it's kind of just normal. I'm like, it's so much more normal than I thought it would be.
That's cool to hear. But
Yeah.
it's nice. Like I'm sure it's a wonderful place to hike and
Mhm. Oh yeah.
yeah.
It's still beautiful. It's
Well, I
hard to
wanna be there,
find good
obviously.
trails, but
The cherry blossoms. That's gotta be
yes.
special.
That is cool. That is really cool. Our town doesn't have very good cherry blossom. Our town has nothing. we have a street. We have one single street and that's
Okay.
it.
Yeah.
But
So are you, when you say you're in the sticks, are you in like a forested area or?
so we're way